When you become a parent, you have hopes, dreams, expectations for your children. You hope that you'll be good parents, that your children will be happy and healthy, that they'll go on to become productive members of society and be given every opportunity to make the most of their lives. I know I certainly had those hopes. But up until about 2 years ago, I felt like I'd failed as a parent. People, friends, family were constantly saying to my husband and I that we weren't parenting our eldest daughter, Analise, right. They would tell us we needed to be stricter on her so that she would be better behaved, so that she might not be so reckless, that she might not just fly off into fits of rage for no particular reason. So my husband and I, we did every parenting course on the planet, but we still seem to be doing a miserable job. When she was 7, Analise came home one day and said to me that she wanted to die. She told me that everybody at school hated her, that she was stupid, and that she was weird. As a mother, that was absolutely heartbreaking to hear those words. So I did what any mother would do, went to see our doctor to see if we could get some help for Analise. He referred us on to the Child and Family Mental Health Service, and after many months of testing and psychological analysis, we were given the diagnosis that Analise had oppositional defiance disorder and ADHD. So we chose to medicate her accordingly to help her get through life. But some of her funny quirks didn't seem to lessen with the medication. She began making funny noises, banging her head against the wall, falling off chairs. Then in 2013, we got given that surprising diagnosis that our little girl, she had Tourette Syndrome. I think I went into shock, really. I mean, I couldn't believe it. How does a 9-year-old child have Tourette Syndrome? She'd never sworn, she didn't pull the finger at people. But when we sat down and we went through the checklist of what is Tourette Syndrome, Analise checked every single box. Nowadays, I wish Tourette's was just about swearing. I'd be more than happy to be wandering around the supermarket with her shouting out at me, "Shut up, bitch," or "fuck, fuck, fuck." Because then I wouldn't be picking her up off the ground when her legs have buckled underneath her, or when she's had a ticking convulsion so fierce it's thrown her to the floor. I wouldn't be wiping the blood off her forehead when she's repeatedly stabbed herself with a knife, a fork, a pencil, or a pen. I wouldn't be medicating her with drugs designed for adults to lower their blood pressure, hoping it might give her some respite from the tics that just never seem to end. However, that is the reality of Tourette syndrome. It is a debilitating, genetic neurological disorder. Its symptoms can range from, really mild, barely noticeable tics, to crippling full body movements that render the person absolutely just in total pain. So now I'd like to introduce Analise to you.
When I tell people I have Tourette's, they always say, "What's it like?" And that's really difficult for me to answer because I've always lived with tics and my weird behaviour. I don't really know anything different. I don't really have a problem with having Tourette's. It's other people that do. In the past, other kids have called me names like spaz or weirdo. Even adults have sometimes said to me, "What's wrong with you?" And that makes me think that maybe there is actually something wrong with me. Before my parents and I knew that there was a name for the funny things I do, like always having to do things really fast or having to touch things, Mum and Dad nicknamed me Princess Clumsy. That's because I don't just have Tourette's, I have ADHD, OCD and anxiety. Most of us with Tourette's do. Sitting still and concentrating in class aren't things that I'm good at, but cartwheeling and catching things when they're dropping are things that I do really well. I used to cartwheel everywhere. It was just one of my many tics. Tics when I was 7. Tics. They aren't. Oh, shoot. I never mean to do the things I do, like flicking light switches on and off or blowing raspberries in people's faces. Tics. My brain just needs me to do that. Tics. The need to have a tic is a bit like when you're trying your hardest to hold your breath. You can do it for a little while, but then your brain takes over. It tells you that you have to take a breath. You might not want to, but you have to. And usually when you do let go, you take a gasping, gulping breath of air that makes you feel a lot better. So it's just easier to breathe all the time. And it's the same with tics. Tick! Probably the one thing I dislike most about having Tourette's is that I have to take medication every morning and every night. I take 2 kinds, clonidine and risperidone. They aren't designed specifically for Tourette's, but some of their side effects can sometimes slow my tics down. The exact cause of Tourette's isn't known yet. That's why there isn't a proper medication or a cure for it. And I don't like people staring at me either, but that's their problem. I have Tourette's. Get over it.
New Zealand is years behind the rest of the developed world in providing support and services for those with Tourette's. And that needs to change now for my daughter's future and for generations to come. And that is why I formed the Tourette's Association of New Zealand. Because I want to see Tourette's recognised as a physical disability by the Ministry of Health so that Kiwis, like Analise, can have access to the same support and services afforded to those with similar motor neuron disorders. However, the government does provide help to those with a physical or intellectual or a sensory disability if it's likely to be ongoing and need help. However, because the New Zealand healthcare system only focuses on the mental health comorbidities of Tourette syndrome, it's not recognised as a physical disability, so they don't get any support. And that really does need to change. So someone like Analise is only ever treated for her mental health disorders and not for that painful motor tic that continually wrecks her life. We have a woman here in Canterbury who is in her mid-30s now, and she's had funny habits her whole life. She always made noises, did funny things. People are always telling her to go and see a doctor. After the trauma of the 2011 earthquake, she developed really complex tics that were so alarming her husband took her to the doctor, and she's consequently been diagnosed with Tourette's. She jokes about how she drops glasses and she throws things at people, and when she's cooking, her arms go flying and la 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 la. But the reality is she hurts herself on a really regular basis, and some days she wears more support braces and bandages than actual items of clothing. But she doesn't qualify for any support or any services because she's not recognised as being disabled. We have a young solo mum up in Nelson who has had severe Tourette's her whole life. She isn't able to get to the shops, she can't get to Wynn, she can't take her son to kindy. She cannot drive, and it's really not safe for her or the general public for her to use the public transport system. Yet she doesn't qualify for any mobility assistance because she's not recognised as being disabled. But then if she doesn't get to, say, her WINS appointments, her benefit gets cut. She relies on relatives, friends, family, neighbourhood people to take her son to and from kindy and to get her grocery shopping. And that just doesn't really make much sense to me. So that is why I really do believe that these people need to have their disability recognised, similar to those like with Parkinson's or autism. They get provided with physical disability support and services, and I think Tourette's should too. Unfortunately, in her short life, Analise has already sort of experienced the harshness of being excluded, and I think she's going to tell you some more about that now.
kids have always bullied me because, let's face it, I do strange things. Cut! Or kids, they might be nice to me at school, but then I'd never, ever get invited over to their house to hang out or to birthday parties. Last year, I started having the swearing tick. Tit! I don't like doing it, but I can't stop it either. And sometimes the boys at school will purposely say bad words to me because I know I have to repeat them. Cut! It meant that, cut! This year, I couldn't do a public performance at school because it isn't nice for me to be swearing at strangers. Although I have been told by the TEDx people it's okay for me to be swearing at you. I've also missed school quite a few times because some weeks my tics will be so bad that it isn't safe for me or the other kids if I go to school, or I'm simply too tired to leave home. I try not to let my Tourette stop me from doing things, but sometimes it's just impossible.
There have been times when Analise has told me she's unable to do something because of her tics, like keeping her room tidy. Apparently, if you have Tourette's, you cannot put your clothes away and you cannot make your bed. However, the reality is that there are Kiwis with Tourette's who are not able to live their lives to the fullest, who aren't able to live independently, and they need to have their disability recognised. And I think they deserve to be able to access the same support and services as others with physical disabilities. So for those people, and for my daughter, I'm going to continue to lobby the government until that fucking changes. Thank you.